In the heart of the ancient village of Umuozala, surrounded by thick forests and whispering streams, lived a young bride named Anwuli. Her name meant joy, but since her marriage to the wealthy farmer Umuozala, joy had eluded her like a shadow fleeing the sun. For 7 years, her womb remained empty. At first, the women of the village consoled her. "Your time will come," they said. But as time crept by, the whispers began. Maybe her womb is cursed. Maybe she offended the spirits. And worst of all, she's barren. Umuozala's patience thinned. His mother, Mama Neka, was the loudest among them. "I warned you not to marry that girl from across the river. Her people are cursed," she spat one day, slamming her walking stick on the ground. "No child after all these years? Shame!" But Anwuli remained silent. Every night she prayed by the great Iroko tree, offering bitter cola, honey, and her tears. One night, under the light of a swollen moon, she cried louder than usual. "Spirits of my ancestors, please, don't let me die a woman without a child. Let me feel life inside me, even if for a day." That night, the wind howled as if in answer. The Iroko's branches trembled. A shadow slithered past her, but Anwuli, too weary to be afraid, didn't turn back. 3 months later, she noticed her belly swelling. Joy returned like the first rain after drought. Umuozala danced in the compound. Mama Neka's tone softened. Even the women began to whisper blessings now. Everyone all of a sudden became nice towards her, as if that would reduce the pain and humiliation of the previous years. But on the 9th moon, joy turned to terror. The day Anwuli went into labor, thunder cracked the sky, though there was no rain. Midwives gathered around, fanning her, chanting songs to soothe the pain. But when the cries stopped, silence fell. And then, a scream, but not Anwuli's. One of the midwives stumbled backward. "What is that?" In the blood-stained cloth was not a baby. It was something scaly, slippery, with a flicking tongue and lidless eyes. A lizard. A fat brown lizard, still wriggling. The entire room reeled. Umuozala barged in. "Where's my son?" No one could speak. Then someone dropped to the floor and began to scream. "She has brought a curse upon us!" The news spread faster than fire. Anwuli gave birth to a reptile. "She's a witch. She has slept with the spirits." The elders called a meeting that night. Even Anwuli, still bleeding and dazed, was summoned. Chief Okori, the oldest elder, stood and thundered, "We have kept our peace. We have respected the gods. But Anwuli has brought an abomination into Umuozala. I don't understand," she wept. "I don't know how." "Silence," Mama Neka shouted. "You have embarrassed my family enough. You keep bringing shame to us." Umuozala's face was hard as stone. "I divorce you. I don't ever want to see you again. You leave this village tonight. Take your creature with you." They dragged her from the meeting square. Thunder cracked the sky again. Rain poured as if heaven itself wept for Anwuli. Anwuli wandered with her strange child. Some said she should kill it. Others avoided her path. She settled near the edges of a river, building a small hut with mud and bamboo. The lizard grew, but strangely, it never crawled on 4 legs. It sat beside her, watched her eyes, responded when she called. She named him Zikora, meaning show the world. Years passed. She never remarried and also never returned to Umuozala. But every year, on the night of his birth, strange things would happen. Wind would circle the hut. The river would glow faintly, and Zikora's eyes would change color. One year, when Zikora turned 7, the river began to whisper, "Bring him into the water, Anwuli." She thought she was losing her mind. But then one night, the sky turned purple. A blinding moon glowed, and Zikora, who now stood taller than a boy his age, looked up at her and whispered in a human voice for the first time, "Mama, am I not your son?" Anwuli collapsed in shock. The lizard was speaking, not hissing, speaking. She held him close and wept. Yes, yes, you are. You are my son, my Zikora. And that night, the miracle happened. Near midnight, she carried him to the river, shaking with fear. The river hummed. The water parted slightly, like something alive. A bright light began to pulse from beneath. A voice echoed, deep, ancient, female. The spell shall be undone, for the truth must return. Anwuli, you were not cursed. The child was marked by envy. And then, the lizard's skin began to peel. Zikora's body glowed golden. The scales cracked, his limbs elongated. The tail dissolved into smoke. Anwuli gasped as her child stood up before her. A tall, radiant boy with brown skin, locks like river weeds, and eyes that shimmered like moonlight. Zikora, human, whole, beautiful. Who did this to you? She whispered. He looked up at the sky. The herbalist in Umuozala. He came the night I was born. Twisted my form before the midwives could see. He feared I'd be powerful. He cursed me with silence. But the river remembers. And justice is calling. Zikora and his mother returned to the village the next moon festival, unannounced. People screamed when they saw Anwuli alive, but they fell silent when they saw the boy beside her. He radiated light. Mama Neka fainted on the spot. Obiajulu stuttered. This is not possible. Chief Okari trembled. Who are you, boy? Zikora stepped forward. I am Zikora, son of Anwuli, the one you cast out, and I come with truth. He turned to the gathering and said, Bring the herbalist. The air in Umuozala was so still you could hear hearts pounding. The boy, Zikora, stood tall beside his mother. His glowing eyes scanned the gathering like a spirit reborn. The villagers whispered among themselves, unsure whether to bow, flee, or stand still. Then, from the far end of the village square, the herbalist arrived. Old Udoka, hunched, gray-bearded, dressed in a robe of animal hide and feathers. He leaned heavily on his staff, his face unreadable. But his eyes, those eyes flickered with something dark, something that trembled beneath the surface. Zikora turned to face him. You remember me, don't you? Udoka squinted. I remember no one cursed. Zikora stepped forward. You came to the house the night I was born. You drugged the midwife's tea. You touched me with herbs that made my skin shift. You chanted in the language of snakes. You told the spirits that Anwuli's joy must turn to sorrow. The crowd gasped. Chief Okari's voice shook. Udoka, what is this boy talking about? Udoka's hands trembled, but his voice was defiant. Lies! All lies! He is a demon child! Zikora didn't blink. He raised his hand, and the wind howled. Leaves lifted from the ground, forming a swirling spiral around him. The sky dimmed. A crack of thunder rolled through the heavens, even though the sun still blazed. And then, the river's voice echoed again. Udoka, your deeds have been brought to remembrance. A sudden gust of wind threw Udoka to the ground. From his pocket, a small black gourd rolled out. It cracked open on the ground, spilling a sickly red mist. The people gasped as the scent of decay filled the air. Chief Okari picked it up with shaking hands. This is a vessel of transformation, forbidden by the sacred laws. Udoka's face twisted. You don't understand. He wasn't meant to live. The child. He carries the mark of a different destiny. His spirit threatened the old order. I saw it in a dream. His birth meant the end of my reign. I only did what I had to keep balance. Zikora's voice was low. You destroyed a mother's life. You turned a village against the innocent. And you called it balance. He raised his hands. The wind calmed. Silence fell. Justice, he said, must be complete. Chief Okari stood. Udoka shall be judged. The next day, a gathering was held by the sacred rock of Ato. The entire village came out. Udoka was stripped of his title and banished. The elders poured libation and slaughtered a white goat to cleanse the land of his evil. As the blood flowed, Zikora stood beside his mother, now dressed in the ceremonial white of vindication. Her head held high, her face calm, but her eyes filled with silent tears. They weren't tears of grief. They were the tears of a woman who had been restored. Mama Neka came forward, fell to her knees, and grabbed Anwuli's feet. I wronged you. I cursed you. I treated you like dirt. I am sorry, my daughter. Anwuli didn't speak at first. Then softly she said, I needed your voice when they dragged me out in the rain, but forgiveness is a fire that burns clean. She raised Mama Neka to her feet. The people watched, stunned. Even Umuozala stood still, eyes cast downward. He stepped forward. Zikora, I am your father. Zikora turned slowly. You are my biological father, yes. But you were not a father to me. You chose shame over love, fear over truth, and you left my mother in the dark. Umuozala swallowed. What can I do to make it right? Zikora looked him in the eye. Honor her. That's where you begin. In the weeks that followed, the village changed. The river flowed clearer. Crops began to flourish again. Children who had fallen ill recovered. The elders said the land had been cursed for years, and the lifting of that curse brought balance back. The people began to speak Anwuli's name with reverence. The girl they had mocked now became the woman of honor, the symbol of strength and mystery. As for Zikora, the villagers saw him as something more than a boy. He became known as the boy who spoke to the river. Some believed he was a child of prophecy. Others claimed he would one day lead not just Umuozala, but all surrounding villages. Anwuli built a new home in the center of the village. She refused to return to Umuozala's compound. She and Zikora lived in peace, visited often by people seeking wisdom, healing, and blessing. One evening, as the sun bled golden across the sky, Zikora stood by the river with Anwuli. Mama, he said, do you still think of that night? She nodded slowly. The night you were born? Yes. Anwuli looked into the water, then smiled faintly. I remember the pain, the shame, the rain, but most of all, I remember the voice that whispered, Joy is never buried forever. Zikora touched her hand. I was never a curse. She turned to him, kissed his forehead. You were my miracle in disguise. And together they watched the river shimmer, as the last light of the day danced on the water like a promise kept.